Yeah.
Okay, we're live now. Okay, Dave didn't go there. Jadich Karen, can I say
Tá mé go má an agus tú féin?
Tána go mai, yes. Labra in you on the wrist. Just a nice day today. Agus Jasa Huaka, nice to see you.
Same
Did you
here.
have a nice Sunday?
Yes, a very busy one.
Busy? Okay, good.
A lot of Irish.
Very good.
We
Very impressed. Tommy talked a lot. I'm just putting a wee welcome message out for everybody. I suppose we are a wee tiny bit early, but can you see that in the chat? Can you see the chat from there?
No.
You can't see the live comments or anything, no? I've lost you. We've lost Karen. Karen, we lost you there. Bear with us all here. Someone's happening with Karen's. Hello, Karen, are you there?
I can hear you.
You're right. Your mic's gone completely. Whatever you've done there, you've knocked yourself off there. Can you try and get the mic back or the camera back? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, your camera's gone, Karen. Whatever you've hit there, you've knocked the camera off. Right. Right. Lost her again. Karen, what did you do there? Whatever you did, you lost your whole thing.
Yeah, I know. It knocked me out. I can't see chat anyway.
Right. Okay. Don't worry about it. Did you hit something there?
I hit probably a back button instead of another button. So.
Right. Okay. Right. Well, we'll just welcome aboard. Falcha Isteach Arish, Karen. Great to see you.
Thank you.
Anybody who's listening. I think Connor's there on cue. Good to see you, Connor.
Hello, Connor.
Okay, we're going to just talk a wee bit about a subject that hasn't been brought up before. We're going to talk a wee bit about the Irish and the Celtic connections and language. And I know you've been looking into it quite a lot today anyway. And we'll talk a wee bit about trying to break out of lockdown, which we got mentioned the other day on Friday. And also some of the things that were touched on the stream last night with ourselves and Dahi was quite interesting. But Karen, you know a lot of people in the Yellow Vest movement. I know that they're very active in France. They started off with the Gilets Jaunes, and they're a kind of a background populist movement, working class, but they're not necessarily politically aligned as such. But was there a development this week with them? You've been in contact. Explain to people just what is their role in Irish politics and where they are with things, if you don't mind. Yellow Vest.
Well, I was invited to a meeting in the end of February by one of the members in relation to one of your videos here on your channel, and one of your early videos, and I went to the meeting, and got chatting about how the role of, let's say, their role with the nationalist parties during the election, and we got chatting. I said we'll try and kind of bring that back, because obviously the elections were over at that point, and we just need to kind of support. There's still interest in supporting the Irish Freedom Party because we kind of come out on top of the polls. But it is a long process. Sorry?
Are they trying to find a political hat, somewhere to hang their hat?
Yeah, they are. Yes, yeah. I mean, they spoke to a good few, like GDI, Renua, but you know, it's a matter of they were looking at us because we're the main party that was, you know, showing activism.
Yeah.
And it's a long process because, I mean, at the moment we're in lockdown, but I've been talking to them now most weeks for the last 2 months, and are still interested in talking to us. Now, as they are a populist movement, but they're not like a political party, and they kind of talk to everybody.
Do they go around protests and stuff? Is that what they do?
They would, yes. They are been instrumental in organising the free speech rallies since October, and obviously up until February of this year, around the time the elections were on.
I met a lot of them actually in Dublin just before Christmas on one of their freedom of speech rallies. Yeah. But are they directly affiliated with the ones in France, or are they just a loose organisation, or no?
They are different because there are two groups, I believe, I was told, in France. One is very much, and I could be wrong on this, but they're not really that much populist. They're very much like a violent. They kind of engage in violence to kind of get what they want. There's another group in France who are less so. And the one in Ireland they're not engaging in like the peaceful protesting. They try and build that group up through online and then talking to people. They'd often go on every Saturday, meet every Saturday, and you know, discuss different things, different campaigns. They would actually they would go to Henry Street and just answer questions about Irish history and politics. So they're trying to educate people more than using violence to get what they want. And they will talk to anybody in relation to kind of educate people and come on board, because while they're looking to us for, say, hand their hat and like supporting the political party, they want to kind of get everybody on board. And then they'll see when the time comes, if we go to an election again, they will support the Irish Freedom Party. But I mean, it's a process that needs to be worked on. You know, both people are talking to each other.
We're certainly encouraging to get the word from you this week that they were kind of interested in following up. I certainly would welcome that. I mean, the more feet in the ground we can get, the better. Are there many of them based in the Drogheda or in the Louth area?
Well, the Laird area is kind of small-ish, but they're trying to, overall, they're after reaching a milestone there, 39,000 on their across their pages across the country. Now, you know, 39,000. I mean, there's probably loads more, but like 39 solid contributors to their pages, their group. And I manage one, the Loud page. But again, it's like it is a slow process, because obviously you want to get talking to people. I mean, there's different groups that will be talking to them, like Sinn Féin or whatever. They would be talking to them because they're disillusioned with maybe their own party, and it's like it's educating and trying to reach the people who are not, say, in the same sphere as ourselves, because otherwise you're talking to the same people saying the same things, who know about what we know already. So about reaching them. Now, trying to do that in lockdown is a challenge, because obviously you can't go out, because they used to come up religiously for the last year and a half to Dublin, from Wexford, from Dublin, from from different parts of the country, to come up and do, say, a demo or even a meeting, say, on Collins Street with different things. So they're quite they're very dedicated in that way. They're very consistent, probably more so than any other movement I've seen so far.
I know they're big on the free speech thing, but what is their? You say they're populist. I mean, are they kind of nationalist, like, or so they're pro-nationalist, or not? Are they anti-EU, or are they anti? What would they align directly politically, do you think, or is there?
Well, they would be. I mean, they would look to get their country back, and they're looking for a nationalist party that would give that, would meet that demand, that same value system. Yeah. You know, I mean, if a party is kind of sitting on the fence on the EU, you know, it's kind of contradiction what national really is. So they're looking for someone like ourselves to kind of talk to and support. We're canvassing and but it's obviously a two-way street as well. We need to kind of support their values, and
Yeah.
you know, it's a support network really.
Yeah.
I want to say though as well, they do see themselves as leaderless. Now I'm not saying they don't have like discussions and like, you know, like they're going to be, you know, who do they support one campaign over another. They're not really, they're democratic in nature. They don't really lead. They each have their own, probably their own pet hates in relation to what they would, you know, discuss and support. So obviously they discuss wherever they're going to support next, but they're leaderless in that way. So I don't know if that's going to change, but that's where I'm seeing.
Okay. Okay. So I'm just answering a wee query there from somebody's asking about the Zoom. I don't think the Zoom's going ahead. Neil McKincha, Gome, and Duolingo Zoom a Gullarai Anocht. I don't think the Zoom. Remember we did the just to branch on. Well, thanks very much for that little thing about the yellow vest, and we'll certainly be moving forward with them, and we'll try and get. We did get a couple of new members there to the common. Was one of them originally in the yellow vests in Drogheda?
Yes, he came to the meeting at the same meeting as myself. He wasn't a member. He came to our common meeting as well, which is great.
Right.
But again, I kind of let people kind of make their own minds, and then when things started happening, he started, okay, we would come on board because people need to make their own decisions at their own time. And it was good that we have a member now, a new member that wasn't there before. But he's also supportive of the LFS. So once the lockdown is lifted, we go back, everyone get back to kind of normal activity and going out there every week. I mean, it's a hard job. I mean, to them, and I've been speaking to them a lot, and obviously their own families and their own work, but the demands they put or the work they put in to keep the yellow vests and the groups and updated every day it's phenomenal. It's like a full-time job. Now they've created a page where they put a post in maybe about politics or whatever, a daily post, maybe more than one, and then we would share it out. So you probably see a lot of stuff from me. I would share it out to pages or share it out across all my platform because they want to change the algorithms of posts being shared. So
I sat down with them last Monday. I joined your meeting with them last Monday. Is that going ahead tomorrow?
Yes, it'll go ahead on tomorrow. But it's just in relation to the algorithms. If I share 100 posts or 10 posts to 100 people, that's probably going to overload. There won't really big changes. But see, if 10 people do it, as is a spread across a wider spectrum, you're bringing in more people and seeing the different posts into the actual and linking it back to the yellow pages. So that's what that was about. Right. But I mean, every Monday we have a group chat. Now some people might chip in and out, but I mean, at the moment we've another IFP member talking to them as well in Dublin. It's just to kind of show support and maybe just linking in with them and seeing, exchanging ideas, what we can do, what the other one's thinking, and keeping up the relationship. It's a two-way street. So it's just so process. So
well, the other day, I mean, we got some word from down south anyway. Veronica was talking about a possible opening up of things from tomorrow, letting older people come out, and then we're looking at maybe 2 weeks from the weekend coming. Gatherings of small gatherings could maybe happen. Now, I would love to think that would mean that we could get back out on the street then. I can't guarantee that we would be able to do that, but it would be nice to think that we could. If we could maybe put the table up, space it out well with the leaflets and the hand wash, and try and maybe get people to just join us as opposed to promoting that. We could maybe try and get some of the yellow vest ones to come, but it's a bit hand on heart. We can't just guarantee that we're going to get the go.
Oh, I agree. It's a wait of the week before we'll know, probably before the 18th. If that's going to go ahead. I mean, I agree with you. The table was quite good. I wouldn't go door to door just yet because the table will gauge the mood of the people, and then we'll know whether they're receptive at this point in time. And obviously the table I have is quite good. It's quite long, so it'll enable the safe distancing as well. So we wouldn't be breaching any rules.
Yeah,
if you know what I mean.
Somebody did say, I think with the guy in the yellow vest that I met the channel to last week, I think he was even saying that the public are kind of supporting the measures at the minute. So to push it might be just a bit sensitive. And I think there was a poll there today came out said that 70-80% are in support of the measures. So it's just a tricky one, but we just have to the fingers crossed. At least there's a green light. There's a light. There's a chink of light in the tunnel.
Wasn't there before.
Yeah, which wasn't there. So I think we can all be a little bit hopeful about that. Docha sach, as they say in Irish. You've been working quite well on your Irish and Celtic stuff recently. I mean, I posted that wee video. I'll try and see kind of share it.
Oh yeah, the history, yeah.
Yeah, let me just see. Does this? It's a brilliant.
It's very visual.
Yeah. Can you see that?
No, not yet.
No. Right. Let me see. Right.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
I've watched quite a lot of these videos. They do the history of the Germanic languages. They do the history of the world.
Right.
So it shows it from basically. It's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very visual.
Yeah. But anyway, I could watch that again. It's just I think it's fantastic that. But it just shows where the language started and originated from, sort of around Gaul. Dahi was talking last night. I mean, Gaulish was an original Celtic language in modern day France, and the Romans. It was known as Gaul back then. So that was a Celtic language. It's obviously not spoke, but this predates French. So they originally came from, some of them even maybe further to the east, not, but they came from there, and then they populated Ireland and Britain. How did you find any of your research into it?
Well, I looked at a video earlier today, about 13 minutes, of an English guy talking about the history. And I went on to quite detail about the Celtic group, which is ourselves, Irish, Gaelic, Scottish Gaelic, and also the Manx, which is in Isle of Man. Then it looked at the Bretons, the Cornish, and the Welsh, which is the P Celtic. And it talked about the letters, difference in the letters. I didn't know. You know, which I mean, it's something I wouldn't really be up on. You be ahead of me on that, and how our language, we gave our Irish to the Scottish. I didn't know that either. But I mean, I was looking. Yeah. I also looked at videos with Jason, that guy with the Scottish Gaelic. He was very good. It's very simple. I know it's a very basic language, sentence he's looking up. I looked at about 4 or 5 videos about how to, ask questions and, very basic words and similar, very similar. But David Riley said last night that the difference between our language, our Irish Gaelic and the Scottish Gaelic, is only 50 words, which is actually very close.
Yeah.
And I have to say now, it was actually quite easy to listen to, from the guy in the YouTube video. I watched a good few, about 4 or 5 I listened to today. I wouldn't be aware of that history, I have to say, but certainly was an education.
Yeah, the Irish, it was given to. Hello?
No, Hello? Go ahead.
I'm trying to get back up the proper screen, but
no.
Yeah. No?
I can hear you.
Yes, I mean, when you look at that video and you see the history of the Celtic, it's quite unfortunate. It's very sad the way, I mean, all the way along through history from thousands of years. It's one of the oldest languages in Europe. It was like that there, and then it comes along basically within about the last 3, and it just goes down like that. From the 1700s, it started from after 1690 or whatever, and then 1800s with the advent of the legal system and all, it was all done through English, and it just dropped down. But I think, when we look back at history, I think history's is not going to be kind to the country for not reclaiming its language. I mean, if anybody has any doubts about Irish nationalist history, they can't have any doubts about the fact that there was an independent language, that was always there, and we can have a cultural independence in the meantime. Before, I think I mentioned this last night, before we get to any political independence, we could still be trying to repopulate the country with Gaelic Celtic speakers and claim it back that way.
I was going to say as well. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say in that program that the Irish guy was talking about, he was saying that all those languages, including our own, was now endangered by the recognized endangered language by UNESCO, including the Bretons and Irish.
Yes, I saw
which
that.
Is quite a lot.
It's what?
It's quite a lot, actually, and it's very sad as well.
Yeah. It is, yeah. I mean, he said that the Irish was actually an endangered language in Scottish. I think he says that Manx is a seriously endangered language. So it's even worse. Yeah. So...
but they are actually... Go ahead.
The thing about it is actually that there was a piece put in, I think I shared it earlier. It was on the Duolingo Facebook about, there was an Irish Times piece saying that there's urban Irish is coming in now. So while the Gaeltacht Irish, the pure spoken form of the language, is declining, there is a rise now definitely of urban Irish. Now some of the purists don't really kind of like that, but at the end of the day, it is Irish, and at least that there's evidence that it's getting a foothold back in the country, and a lot of people in the sort of more middle class parents are getting their kids learning it now in the cities. So it's not even a working class thing, which there are areas in Dublin like Ballymunnon and Belfast. It was traditionally maybe the working class that were in it, but now you're getting middle class ones in Dublin that are choosing to send their kids to the Gaels school in it. So it is organically coming back. Whereas the old thing about the Gaeltacht was it was almost artificially kept alive, but the language is reviving itself. Now I think it would only take about a generation. If you just get kids back speaking it from day one, you could have the language back, like they did with the Hebrew in Israel,
I know when at Isle of Man they were actually trying to they have a primary school dedicated to their own Manx language, so they're trying to bring in the new generation for that, to increase it. Otherwise, it's gone.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I think I saw that.
But the Gaelic school, I know a friend of mine from work is learned it in primary school, but came out of the system into English because it can be seen as elitist, and I don't like using that word, but we need to get away from that. We need to get away from that. It should be for everybody. It is for everybody.
Well, there is a little bit of an elitist thing, I suppose, with it, because a lot of, I mean, it's a bit of a paradox, but a lot of the working class people wouldn't speak it so much. I mean, if you go into a pub, as I used to do when I first got back into it 5 or 6 years ago, if you go into a pub, the guys serving in the pubs aren't going to know really. And if they're at university, they might. And you're saying last night about there was the dislike towards it. We didn't get that so much in the north, but so it had become a little bit of an elitist thing. But I suppose I'll take whatever we can get if they're gonna speak it, no matter whether it's elitist or not. I'll take that. But it's about getting the awareness back. I mean, some of those. It's a bit of a sensitive one, but some of those parents have been not criticised, but they've been looked on as elitist because they send their kids to the Gaels school because you're not going to get foreigners and you're not going to get the riffraff. so that's why they like their kids going to, and they think the kids are going to get a very good education through it. So I mean, it's not perfect, but at least I'll take that. At least they're speaking Irish,
Yeah.
For
now I
whatever
brought up the issue last. Sorry,
for whatever reason they're speaking Irish. So I mean, they spoke it in the Maze prison, so that wasn't ideal either. But at least they were getting an awareness of it, So it's strange circumstances bring around people's use of language, doesn't it?
But I mean, last night I brought up the issue of like all the Gaeltachts that are mainly over in the West, and we're both looking at that program on Tina G at the moment. But there's very little on the East, and it'd be nice. I know there's one in Navan. Did someone say it was one in Navan? I think it was you.
Navan, yeah, Rathcarn or somewhere. And somebody said last night there's one in Waterford, and of course it is very strong in Belfast. I mean, I have to say, I mean, I don't know whether you quite go as far as to say it's a Gaeltacht, but it is remarkably strong. You will see a heck of a lot of things in shops. The butchers will have a bustier, and you'll see a lot of cafes on Falls Road in Irish, and you have the Gaeltacht, you have the Culterland and everything. So it's very, very strong in Belfast. But no, it's not traditionally. It was always pushed out. It was always pushed out to the extremities. To the extremities. So somebody is saying their Irish was spoken in Queen Elizabeth's court. Earliest medical and science books in the British Museum are as Gaelic. That's very interesting. Can you see that? Cathal Karen?
I can't really see. It's too small.
I didn't know that. Irish spoken in Queen Elizabeth's court. Yes, I've seen old documents where they show when a lot of people from Ireland were coming over to England 300 or 400 or 200 or 300 years ago. There was documents printed in both languages. You know, so they had it in old Irish and they had it in the old Irish typescript as well, and had Irish and English. So it shows you how important it actually was looked on then. You know.
Yeah. I didn't know that. I was going to say, I watched a video earlier in the week about the Constitution, and the person who was giving it, Brian Gilroy, was saying that the Irish version of the Constitution is more pulled than the English version. I don't know why, but it's more, I don't know, maybe there's more in it, I don't know. But it obviously was a very first language there, maybe in the 1930s, was a bigger pull, more powerful, I'd say. So it's lost its power to a certain extent.
See, my worry as well is when we look at what happened to the language, I've said this before, but history could repeat itself with the people of Ireland. I mean, look where the language is. I mean, 300 or 400 years ago, people would not have imagined that Irish is basically not spoken. So my worry would be in 200 or 300 years that people might look back and say, God, well, they're actually Irish people that lived in Ireland, you know? So, you know, it could go, if we don't watch ourselves, we could end up being pushed out to Ironmore Island ourselves, you know, but with the globalism that's going on, but hopefully not. Hopefully not. But it was very interesting. Those wee videos are very good. But there is the urban Irish that's coming back. And some would argue that it's not proper Irish. That they're maybe just substituting an Irish word into an English sentence, which is not the way Irish is constructed. But at least it's something. It's not perfect, but it's not pure Irish.
I'm just wondering, you're talking about new Irish. Is there Irish words being created for new technology words like Facebook, or are we finding words? Are we mixing English with Irish more, or is it?
We're kind of, there's a thing called burlachas where people just have used an English word and they put an Irish, like telephone or telefish or that sort of thing.
All right, okay.
I mean, there's a word for application, fade moneyocht, which is an Irish word. But a lot of the words, I mean, no, just Facebook would just be called Facebook.
All right, okay.
No, you know, there's a lot of words on that Duolingo website. We saw a lot of the words for all the social distancing, scaru socialta, and that's actually an Irish word. Socialta would be, you could use that in Irish. Scaru with separation, so that's perfectly Irish.
All right. You
know, Cane Realton is remote control. I mean, that's an Irish word. Cane is remote, and Realton is control. Like Realtus is government. So that's words that are used in Irish. Cochramu and cur, flattening the curve. So there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing English about that. I mean, that's perfectly acceptable.
Mm.
You know, but Irish, I mean, if you want to compare it to, it's a much more poetic. It's much more lyrical and poetic language. It doesn't directly translate. Like for example, you wouldn't say "I got up in the morning." You would say "I rose." Jerry Lum, Jerry Mayer.
Yeah.
So
I guess
people
I
even
know before.
it's even bad English to say I got up because you didn't get anything. You rose, but Ireland keeps it more kind of proper in that regard. Srianta
Mm.
socialta, yes, Connor's put that up. That's Srianta socialta. I'll just try and put that up on the. That is the social distancing. Well, that's the social. Srianta is restrictions. You'll see
Oh,
speed. You'll see it on the signposts down south. You'll see speed restrictions. Srianta.
yeah, yeah.
So that's restrictions on social distancing. You could, yeah, but they're still going to be in place for a couple of weeks yet. Right. Um, we talked about last night. You said your one of your family members had. Oh, just before I go on to that, just
Yeah.
finally on the lockdown measures, it's worthwhile touching again on the fact that New Zealand, as an island nation, has had more success in its level of deaths than Ireland has per capita.
Yes.
Now it's quite a
Yeah.
similar population, and they're a good comparison to make. I know I've mentioned this before. People are suggesting that Ireland is doing reasonably well. Well, it's not doing as well as some countries in Europe on the death per million. And it's certainly not doing as well as a country like New Zealand, which did take measures to close down the borders. And I know there was
Yeah.
something in the news this week where Britain has said that they're going to have to look seriously at that. I don't know why they haven't done it yet. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, first of all, a friend of mine whose daughter living over there, you're right, just confirmed that they're smart. They closed down the borders. They're an island. They done what any island should do. But I mean, regarding Britain, I don't understand. They are out of Europe, and yet they kept the borders open.
Yeah, I can't
And
understand that myself.
it can't understand. Like, they're contradicting the Brexit status. Even
Exactly.
before you look at COVID, and to me, once you're in Brexit, you're no longer in Europe. I know it's kind of through stages. They still brought in workers. They done what we did. They
Yeah,
brought in workers in from outside. Now I know there's a newsreel today about they're deciding to control what's going to come into the airport. How many weeks after the event is too late? I mean, the damage has been done, and they've been put in. I've heard that the workers that come over here, they're meant to be in quarantine for a few weeks, and they're only doing for half the amount. And I don't know the details, but you're only hearing different stories.
yeah,
But I mean, they should never be brought in. There's loads of people being unemployed. They could have taken those workers, put
yeah,
them into the farms, and
yeah,
either half pay them by the employer and half pay them with the COVID payment, and it would solve the problem. We
yeah.
didn't need to, in this occasion, we didn't need Bulgarian workers. And that's not a reflection on them. The policy was made and it was done.
I know. I mean, then people just throw the old anti-xenophobic thing at you when you mention that. I mean, it's about we have a lockdown on here. It's either a lockdown or it's kind of not. But I mean, that question is coming up more and more now. People, even young children, are asking questions in the middle of these TV debates as to why has Britain not taken the step to close down the borders the way some other country has. And the irony is, Britain was the country that voted to take back its control of its borders, and it's not doing it. But I think it's going to gain more and more traction, that question. And they're already saying now, Britain is saying that they're being quite cautious about introducing any change to the measures, whereas Ireland has gone ahead with that. So I think they're going to have to sort of stop the inward travel. I mean, Connor's put up a
Mm.
point there saying that New Zealand has 2% of the deaths per million of Ireland. I mean,
Jesus,
that tells you
that's
all you need.
huge.
That tells you
Yeah,
all you need to know then about it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, we could have
I
saved
mean,
lives. We could be
common,
saving lives there.
common sense went out the window as soon as it all started. I mean, I know I wasn't sure. I mean, anyone who's in a nursing home would automatically have been vulnerable even before they even put the lockdown down, in place. Because vulnerable older people were going to they have a less immune system. They always have a comorbidity, dementia, heart disease, something going on. So they're going to be more likely to catch something. So,
Yeah, I mean, it
and
just
they're dying by the thousands.
it has to be
You
looked
know,
at. I mean, I don't know whether you follow that guy Mark Collett or not, but there's a comment there is made that he's an interesting take on the UK's. I think he made a point one time that the fact that the UK hasn't closed down borders, they're either stupid, they bumbled it, or they have or fumbled it, or they're doing it deliberately. to promote the globalist sort of agenda? I don't know. I think it could be a wee bit of both. I can't see them doing it deliberately. I mean, but after all, Boris Johnson nearly died. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. I don't understand why they didn't. I mean, when you're out of Europe, you have the opportunity to close
yeah,
everything.
exactly. And then Germany actually closed theirs more, didn't they? So they're doing
Yeah.
better than Britain. So I really can't for the life of me work that one out. It seems a great inconsistency. So it's somebody. I know your man Collett. He made the point of well, they're either a bit of both. They maybe fumbled the issue or they're doing it deliberately. So it's up to you make your own minds up about that.
And I mean, we said it before as well that Europe is it's kind of shaky grounds because Italy wasn't looked after. So certain countries weren't helped by the parent country. So that's something that would put Europe on shaky ground.
Yeah.
When Hungary closed there, they weren't taking on any immigrants, and the movement of people obviously will spread as any disease. Hungary is in a good place. Poland didn't take any in, so it's just like they were probably in a better place than we are.
Yeah, I don't think the EU is going to come out of this looking very well. I think
No.
they've tried to claim back or claw back some of the lost credibility with it, but I don't think that they've come out of it very well. Somebody's making a comment there. Boris controlled by international finance capital, maybe.
So what was that?
Boris controlled by international finance capital. Yeah. Well, I mean, Collett made the point that there's an agenda here. Okay, I mean, we're all supporting it. Nobody's against the EU or the NHS. We're all big supporters of the NHS. But there is a little tiny element of it. It's saying that you have to have it's pro-globalist slightly, and we're doing that. We're capping for the NHS, and then we're also saying, well, we have to have foreign workers to come in and pick the food for us, so that there's a slight agenda pro-globalist that are attached to it too. He's trying to tease that point out of it, So it's time will tell.
And why does it? I mean, for every country looked after itself. Okay.
Come on, Cathal Karen, you were saying?
What's the train of thought there? I was saying that
GDP is the new religion. Connor's saying that. Well, GDP. My old point was, people say you have to be in the EU because you have to get the GDP. And if the GDP rises by 0.1%, who cares? I don't think it should be. It may be the new religion, but I think we need to look at other things. I mean, what price sovereignty, what price culture, what price well-being of people? I don't think the man on the street doesn't care about the GDP. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking about, before you went there, what Dave was saying about how when he marched, years ago, he marched along with, say, the African man to get their country up and running, as well as he'd march for here. So nationalism is sovereign to everybody, every country. So if every country looked after itself, we wouldn't have the wars, we wouldn't have the control, and we wouldn't have the big, states like Europe and, coming in and trying to control everything. So, I mean, we even said that nationalism was a dirty word. It is, and I've been saying that, and we all say that for a while. It's like, you're ashamed to say, oh, you're Irish. It's like, it's like we're apologizing for our own existence. So I mean, what Connor's saying there, we're kind of controlled by this kind of performance indicator that doesn't help anybody. We don't have our own currency since 2002, which we need to get back as well. If we had our own currency, we wouldn't be dependent on Europe for anything. you know.
I mean, the GDP thing. It's a way of measuring things, and I think it's a very poor indicator of. It should look at the overall contentment with life or contentment with the country and well-being rather than the GDP. It shouldn't be the indicator. It's a wee bit like if you're in the workplace, you know, if you have we have performance indicators in our workplace. Like you have so many visits to do, so many school visits, so many things to do. Say 20 per month.
Yeah.
If you get them done, that should be great. It should be measured on that, not whether you're 5 minutes late one morning. You know, so that they're.
Yeah.
You know, they're kind of measuring things on the wrong things. I mean, the GDP really is a bad indicator of how a country's doing. I think overall satisfaction of quality of life
Yes.
is far more
And
important. I mean,
no,
when you get young people considering emigrating again because they're driving 100 miles from Leeds to Dublin every day, I mean that's not good.
and now go back to what you're saying about the happiness indicator. If you look back in the 80s, before all this mortgage culture, I mean, my parents they had this rent to buy system in place, and everyone was kind of happy. We were a working class family, sure. My dad worked in a factory with a whole lot, but we had better happy indicators in relation to everyone went to school. There's plenty of everything, pretty much. We didn't have homelessness culture we have now. We didn't have the mortgage culture. So people had their own homes, and the chance of you getting your own home was higher than it is now. And even as a single person with a good job, that's out of my reach. I really should be able to. Yeah.
So you're feeling that you have less chance of getting your own home now.
Yeah, than I would if I was as an adult in the 80s than now.
Really? So that's interesting. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is that you've less chance of getting it now?
Culture of high mortgages, even with a good wage, is actually my wage wouldn't cover the mortgage that would be so high, unless I had a box house, like an apartment, a very small apartment.
Would that have been worse? Would that have been better back in the 80s then?
Yes.
Really?
The chances of me owning my own home would be better.
Right.
You know.
I mean, somebody's made a hit there that the British people are happy to take a small financial hit over Brexit in order to get their sovereignty back. Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. And I always draw the parallel, as I said myself, when the Free State became in existence, the economy went down, but the Irish people had enough of being ruled by a foreign, for they wanted to take some form of sovereignty back, and they were more than happy to do that, you know. So I think that we keep coming back to this, but that sense of culture has gone, and I think we need to say, look, to hell with the GDP. There's people's quality of life we need to be looking at, which is far more important than things like that. It's only one indicator. Okay, it's important, but it's not the be all and end all, you know. And
there's more depression and suicides because of the quality of life.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, I always make the point too. With all the liberal agenda that we have this massively liberal utopia now. We've got abortion on demand, and we've got LGBT rights and everything else. But are people any happier? No, they're not. The quality, the blinking suicide levels through the roof. You never had suicide in this country, even in the worst economic times.
Not to that extent, yeah, not to that extent, no.
I mean, young people now committing suicide the way, you know.
It's just before you go further. I mean, the job I do, when I first started 12 years ago, I collect data, and the children come in with fractures and cancer and stuff like that. But we've seen a huge increase in the amount of children who are suicidal, and I'm talking about very young. I'm not talking about teenagers. I'm talking about children. You're talking about the 8-year-old, the 9-year-old, the 10-year-old. Now, what is driving that behavior?
I think it's if we reverted things back to maybe a little bit more of a conservative viewpoint in society, I think things might improve. I think quality of life would improve, and well-being would improve. I think the liberal utopia, it's selling people a pup, you know. I know it's politically incorrect, but I think feminism has a lot to do with it. I think radical feminism is bringing women down the wrong side. Because there was an interesting thing last week that says that I think Collett might have said that feminism is its raison d'etre is just the destruction of the Western world, same as communism. It has not improved women's quality of life or their well-being. The figures on feminism have shown that women's happiness factors have gone down since feminism's come in, whereas men's has generally stayed around about the same. But women are now more unhappy now than they were 40, 50 years ago. And now they've got all the feminist rights of everything.
Well, it hasn't really improved. Okay, it might improve, say, pay scales and that kind of thing. But I mean, if I look, I work in the public health sector. Now, if I want to get a promotion, there's something blocking me from getting that promotion, and that's qualification. So whether I'm a woman or a man, it doesn't make any difference. And the playing field isn't as easy because the nursing sector are getting the jobs because they're able to get degrees and whatever, and they go from the nursing section to admin, and that's a very common problem. So feminism, it hasn't really helped my life that much, really.
Well, it's just.
It should be an equal.
I mean, equality is fine, but feminism's not about equality; it's about supremacy, really. I mean,
with women over the men. Yeah,
and it's about kind of. You touched on it last night. We were talking about gender quotas. I mean, you can't have gender. That doesn't serve the woman right if she feels she's only got a job because she's a woman. It's interesting that feminism has not delivered for women. It's actually anti-women, and a lot of women don't like or aren't feminists. Feminists wouldn't class themselves as feminists,
I wouldn't say I'm feminist. I wouldn't be a hard feminist at all. I would say I'm more equal. And I think we spoke ourselves personally about the equality in work, like, how to be treated equally at work. One man or each gender is not over the other. So if I work with men and women in the office, I see them as the same. And if somebody's behavior is wrong, it's wrong, nothing to do with the gender. Believe me, women are going against women, and men are going against women, and women are going against men. It happens regardless, and that's.
I've seen some situations as a union rep where the situation has been where you just cannot have a woman being wronged in the workplace. So in other words, they side with the woman, and they side with the woman in childcare. If there's children involved and there's a relationship breakup, the woman will get the child and everything. So there's all those nominal advantages that are kind of happening pro women, but it hasn't made women any happier in the long term either. So
no, and it's gone against the men. When you're talking about childcare, and women always get the children, but men then lose the right to see the child because some adversarial, relationship, and that's wrong because the children need to see their father. Unless the father is abusive, they should see their child, and it's got an ongoing problem where men don't have the rights as the mother do, and they see less of their children. It's always like a constant battle, and you see it all the time. It's always the men who lose out, which is wrong. And feminism doesn't really serve anybody,
No, it doesn't. No, it's kind of about supremacy rather than equality. Because women and men in the marriage, they're not equal, but they're equally valid. I'm not saying women aren't valid. They're complementary, and it worked then. Now it doesn't actually work. The figures for marriage breakups are astonishingly bad. So I'm just going by the figures. Marriage is not looked on as a good. I know you touched on this last night, but marriage is not looked on as a good deal for the man anyway. I don't know. Back in the old days, it was looked on as a good deal. It was a good trade-off between both parties that went into it. But now it's looked on as a sort of it's all about supremacy of one over the other, and I think that's why a lot of blokes aren't having to do with it.
I look at relationships in my family, and it is complementary. I look at my sister, I look at my parents, and I look for cousins, and it's complementary. It's an equal trade-off because one is say the husband is good at one thing and the wife is good at another, and it's like and then if there's kids involved, they teach the kids and bring up the kids equally, and they come to compromises on their education, discipline, and so on. It's a supportive role. Marriage, I'm sure, is very difficult. I'm sure it's not always easy. But if it's a good marriage, it's always like a complementary, supportive role. And then there's a family, then obviously, the kids in particular would benefit from that.
Yeah.
And that's why you see less breakups.
Yeah. I think the figures do show that children benefit far better from being in being in a household where there's a father and a mother. And what you're saying
Absolutely.
a lot of the times in America, a lot of these young kids that go and do these mass shootings, they've come from a family where they've just been brought up by a mother, and the mother's just let them run riot, and then they've no sort of balanced disciplinarian parent who will take them. And this is why, and then you add in the drugs that they give out willy nilly. It's any wonder kids go to shoot up schools and stuff. So it's not all about the guns. Like, that's all one part of it, but it's possibly liberal society that's bringing around all those mass shootings as well. Somebody's put a comment there: women are a protected class across society. Men are held to a higher standard. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, the bar's a bit higher. I see it in some workplaces where men are afraid to say boo, but women can get away with saying things to men. If a man said anything to him, he'd be flipping sacked for.
Which is wrong. Yeah.
It's completely wrong. Yeah. So somebody's great to see your take on feminism. Yes. You can't see his comment. Yeah. Somebody said, Karen, give us a song. Were you singing last night? I didn't see it.
Who said that?
Connor. I don't know why he's saying that. Is he? I don't know. Maybe I missed that. But you weren't singing last night? No.
No.
If I have a few more glasses of this prosecco I'm drinking, I might sing myself.
Well, you were talking about, like single parent families. I mean, I'm sure it's very difficult because maybe, you start off in a relationship, things are good, and then suddenly it goes wrong, and you end up being the single mother. But I mean, it's very difficult. I wouldn't like it myself. I'd like to, be in a relationship and have the kid and have the relationship solidly. Yeah. But I mean, relationship drugs and what you've seen in Drogheda, I mean, not enough parents are asking the right questions about their children. It's almost they're afraid to be parents. My parents weren't afraid to be parents. There was a lot of discipline. They knew where we were. They knew where our friends were. They knew where we were after school, what we were doing. There's none of this afraid to ask the question. Whereas parents are saying, oh, but we can't ask that question. You know what I mean? It's like the parental role is nearly gone because maybe, I don't like saying this, children need rights. But they have too many rights where they can tell the parents, say, I won't be telling you.
Yeah. I think that's very sad. It's very sad, but the parents have lost their right to discipline a child.
Yeah.
So you're entering as a parent. I would say it's a lot harder now to be a parent than it maybe was.
Absolutely. Yeah.
My parents' generation. And then you have this thing where they're bringing in this LGBT education, and the parents don't have the right to step in there about that.
I have no hesitation.
What? Sorry?
I have no hesitation of doing it. I wouldn't have my child being taught, and that's not a disrespect from the community.
There's
a place that's the adult world. To me, that's for the adults.
They don't need to be taught that at primary school. I mean, come on.
No. Children aren't allowed to be children anymore, and.
But you're even heading into like teaching children at that age about that sort of thing is a form of abuse. Maybe it's more than just education,
There's nothing wrong with innocence, like playing with your friends, dolls, books, toys, going out playing games in the street. There's no innocence anymore, and that's the problem. I mean, I wasn't naive, but I wasn't like brought up too quickly. I grew up at a steady pace, and you were told things at certain times. I didn't feel as though I grew up too quickly or too slowly. It's like normal, if you know what I mean. There's none of this, your education was normal, but to bring in somebody to a library and tell your child a story dressed in a dress and makeup and hair and as a man, that's not education.
Well, it's kind of confusing the children. It's going to confuse the children at that age, I mean, if they let them get to at least 16 when they're borderline adults and tell them about stuff like that if they must, but not when they're young children, That would be my take on that. I have another wee thing here I was going to say about going back to the old Celtic, just to change the subject a bit. going back to the old Celtic thing, I mean, the Scottish Gaelic that you were looking at there as well. I mean, obviously they had the film Braveheart, and I know there was a lot of historical inaccuracies with it because there was no flag, there was no blue and white flag back then, and I know Mel Gibson had.
Oh.
But Ireland needs to re-engage with its Celtic history. Ireland needs a Braveheart film as well, maybe to tap into that.
And Dave was saying that, yeah. Dave was saying that, yeah.
Yeah, because we haven't. Our history only goes back to the sort of the rising and all that kind of thing, and it's just fair enough. We need to know about that. We need to go back maybe to where Ireland was the land of saints and scholars before we were pigeonholed as the land of Guinness drinkers. You know.
Yeah, you're saying that. Yeah, and it's like a tourist kind of.
Yeah.
Mimicky kind of a view of Ireland. We don't want. It's not about leprechauns. It's not about Guinness. It's about we have such a strong history. Not all of it's bad. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, the last 200 years has been bad, but it's not all bad.
I'm not a big. I hate that leprechaun hat thing. You know the leprechaun hats. I mean, that's just so cliche. It's just a cliche that was created by the English, and then we're just living up to it. You know, the paddy whackery and the ginger beard and the leprechaun, the big pillar box hats. I mean, it's almost you know.
And you get a paddy steak.
Yeah, but just to maybe just finish up, you mentioned last night about. I think you mentioned it to me as well. Somebody in the family had mentioned about. The racist, xenophobic thing. I mean, there's no shame in being in favor of your country's culture. I don't think that you can. If people are going to label you as racist if you're in favor of your own culture, I mean, if we can't do it, who can do it? You know. So I wouldn't worry about that. I would take that as a badge of honor and just say, look, nobody has been standing up for Irish culture and Irish interests for a long time, and I think it's about time. It's about time somebody did.
Yeah, absolutely. It just came out from the left. It kind of wasn't expecting it because, I mean, when I was living in Dublin, I had freedom to do what I wanted. But when you're here and you're living among family and friends, neighbours that know you for years, and it's like you're in this party that is different than the rest. We're doing what needs to be done.
Yeah.
And they're seeing us as a racist, that we're racist because we care about Ireland and in every way. I mean, financially, emotionally, economically, historically, and getting out of Europe and all that. I mean, that's just one. If you look at our policies, it goes across the spectrum: free speech, crime, health. It's just like, as if we're not allowed to care about our own country. But yet, it shows up in other ways where they say, "Oh, their health system is bad." Yet they want it to be solved with the current government. It won't be solved with the current government. But if we done what we were saying, it would be more than halfway dealt with. And the suggestions I put to you last weekend would be, hopefully be part of it. Crime as well. In fact, I actually had an interesting conversation with a taxi driver yesterday on my way to work, and we're talking about crime in Drogheda, and we mentioned in our policy about the army, backing of the army, of the guards. He said, why was there no army dealing with this feud in Drogheda? And I go, well, that's true. It never happened. We have the armed response, which is fine. But when you want to tackle a big problem like that, you need the army and the guards, and just, stop it once and for all. Whereas we had 7 deaths before it actually took off. Before actually something was done, before a real arrest was done, 3 people died. I mean, you shouldn't wait until all those people die. I know you need evidence, but you knock it on the head as soon as it starts happening. I mean, after one shooting, it should be stopped in anywhere part of the country.
Yeah, that was an ISP policy. That was a policy. Yeah, and I thought a lot of the policies across the board with the party are quite good, and that was an interesting one as well. Nobody else was talking about that. They're bringing the army in. Yeah, somebody, Cathal McCarthy, has just said Disney did a film called The Fighting Prince of Donegal. Have you heard of that?
No,
I haven't heard of it. It was about Red Hugh O'Neill or Hugh O'Donnell. No, I haven't heard of it, but I'll look it up. Honor's saying there, if they call you names in the press, you must be saying the right things. Yeah, I always agree with that. In fact, once they start calling you that, I always go, bingo, we have a winner. If they resort to calling you names, you've won the argument. I mean, there's a couple of times. Yeah, there's a couple of times in Drogheda, some guy drove past and shouted over racist. I thought, great, we're getting to them, you know. So no, I wouldn't worry about it, Connor. Or Karen just said to them, look, we're prioritising the Irish, and somebody has to do it. And this is what we're giving the blinking Irish people.
It's harder with family, though. It's harder with family than strangers.
Yeah. And then you get into that eternal question about, oh well, what is an Irish person again? You know, it's always used as a weapon. You know, they never have a problem with that whenever it's somebody talking about whenever a different context. But whenever somebody
Chinese, African, or
sorry,
I'm saying they wouldn't have a problem with identifying an African or Chinese, Japanese, Asian, Pakistani man. When we're not allowed to be Irish, this is what bothers me.
Yeah, nobody sort of says standing up for nobody goes, well, what is an African person? You know, no. I mean, you make the point. Somebody even said about Vishy, the guy who's the Home Secretary, is it? Vishy Anand, or what secretary is he? Or Priti Patel, who's half. Was she half Indian, isn't she? Or even Varadkar, for example, who's half
Indian and Irish.
That's fair enough, but can you imagine an Irish person, a half Irish person, being Prime Minister of India?
No.
I mean, we couldn't imagine it.
No.
So it is incredibly strange that I think we're one of the least racist countries out there. For people to say that you know, look at a country like China. China doesn't take in any foreign people at all, or it's got about 1% foreign born, but they never get called racist. But the Irish people who do everything for foreign people, and good luck to them, we get called racist. So it's a ridiculous argument, you know. Tell that to your family. Look at the things we do for the foreign people, like, you know.
Yeah, and they get more breaks than we ever would. I think Ireland, even though it's the smallest country in Europe, one of the smallest countries in Europe, we need to be the Napoleons of Europe and say, turn around and just stand up. I just don't understand why. Is it because we've been taken over so many times for such a long time that we that trauma bond of constantly looking to the taskmaster to solve the problem, knowing that they never will. And it's a bit like an abusive domestic relationship in the house. You're always going to be looking for that little break, and that break comes, and you're hit again, and we kind of have to apologize for our existence. And I feel as though we're our tenants in our own country. We don't really own it in any aspect of it. The land, the oil, economics, the banks, our homes, our gardens, our cars. We own nothing. We actually own it. We don't own anything unless you're rich. We don't own anything. You know, because the mortgage you have, the bank has it until you've paid it off in your old age. The car you drive, loan of the bank, credit union, hire purchase.
You drive a car.
Sorry?
You don't drive a car.
I don't drive a car. I used to.
I got rid of it. You do? You can't drive then? Okay, fair enough.
I can drive. Well, I haven't driven in 20 years, but I mean, I had it when I needed it. You know, but I'm saying there's nothing really owned.
I think there is an awful inferiority complex with the Irish. They just are so afraid of standing up on their own 2 feet and saying, "Look, we're claiming back the country," and that's the end of it. You know, they seem to just get cold feet. But that's where we come in, you see. You know? Somebody's got to do it, and this is where we are, right?
And you always notice as well, like even on a personal level, if you stand up for yourself in a restaurant, like family members don't want you to do that. Like if you complain about the cold chicken or the roast, the cold soup or whatever, you're not allowed to complain about the basic services that you get in your cafe or hotel or whatever. And like it's frowned upon. So even at that level, even at the local level and the national level, we're being taught by our peers not to stand up for ourselves. Where is that? It's coming from colonialism and it's inbred to the extent that you can't even stand up and say, I don't like that bread or that chicken or whatever. And say, if you're complaining at the restaurant or complaining about the service in a hotel, to the complaining of the national situation, we are completely, how would you say, no backbone.
Assertive enough. not assertive
No.
enough.
No.
Yeah.
I can relate to that to a certain extent, but not forever. You can't do this forever because this country is on its knees, on every level.
Yeah. Well, let's just hopefully we can get back out again. Hanover said it sounds like a stuck record, but maybe in 3 weekends' time. Sorry?
You're saying something last night as well. We're talking about the COVID and the open borders and Keelings and all that. Did you say something about another survey to see people's responses to that?
I thought we were maybe going to do the survey sheet. I think it's a very good thing if we just insert a line about what's the general opinion on the lockdown.
And put that in. Yeah.
Get the breakdown of the age groups, and just to see where people are. I think we would have to touch on something like that.
Put in.
Yeah, or even just mention something discreetly about the business of the Keelings thing, and see what people think about that.
Mm. Do you agree? Yes or no, or whatever? Yeah.
Yeah. What's the general opinion on that? Yeah. Are you in favor of that in the lockdown? Because we had our previously. I know the party's talking about doing new leaflets.
Leaflets, yeah.
They're talking about having new leaflets post lockdown, getting artwork done for that. But I know we've got quite a lot of new ones anyways, post-election ones.
Yeah.
But that we'll see how that works out. Okay. Unless you have anything else, Karen, you want to bring up, that's most of the stuff I was going to talk about. Keep at the old Irish and the Celtic. Keep looking at that. You're doing very well. Moi hu.
Thank you.
Tagiri go Moilum. Tagiri into Moilat. You're going very well with that. Fair play.
Thank you. Go on, Marcus.
We'll do another translation thing during the week whenever you're ready.
Sorry?
Okay. We'll do a translations thing during the week.
Oh, yeah. Did you send back the feedback?
Yeah, I sent that back. Yeah. I emailed that back to you.
Oh, did you? For the Times? I didn't see it. The Times?
Yes, I emailed that back to you on the day, yeah.
Oh, I must have a look.
Have another look. If you don't get it,
I'll
send it again. I'll send it again. Right, Karen, I Hawaii, August.
I Hawaii.
Take care. Slan lat, August Slanagi Guji or Birch watchers tonight, or 2 viewers that are watching us. Connor and
good night to our supporters.
Connor and Cathal, yeah. My namesake there. Okay. It's nice to get a new viewer coming in. So I think I've got a couple of new ones today as well with the person in Dublin I was talking to you about. So we're building all the time, Karen. A couple of new subscribers. A couple of new subscribers today.
Brilliant. Okay.
So we're building all the time.
Brilliant. Okay. Lovely.
All right, Slán, Karen. Okay. Good luck. Good night.
Good night. Good night. Good night.
Yeah.